Here are several people in Montreal earlier today waiting in the cold to get their hands on the latest copy of Charlie Hebdo. The satirical magazine hit a few newsstands across the country today. The new edition is being called the Survivor's Issue. It features a crying prophet, Muhammad, on the cover holding a sign that reads, "Je suis Charlie." 1,500 copies are being distributed in Canada. They're expected to go quickly. Many of them arriving only this afternoon. The Charlie Hebdo cover, once again depicting the prophet, has drawn strong condemnation and even threats from some corners of the Muslim world. But that response has not been uniform, certainly, from everyone who practices the religion. To talk about the reaction to the latest publication, I'm joined by Safwan Choudhry. He's a spokesperson for the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jama'at Canada, meaning Muslim community here in Canada. Welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
First of all, what was your reaction to find out, to see the picture? I don't know if you've seen it or not, the depiction of the Prophet Muhammad on the cover with a tear holding the sign, "Je suis Charlie."
You know, first thing I would like to say is I chose not to see the picture. But I would like to first and foremost say that we absolutely and categorically condemn the terror attack on their offices and the terror attack that took place at the kosher supermarket. And the saddest part is that it was carried out in the name of Islam, which the truth is that that had nothing to do with the religion of Islam. Now, as far as the cover is concerned, I think it's a well-known fact that for all Muslims, no matter where in the world you live in, what specific denomination you're part of, we all hold Prophet Muhammad very dear and near our heart. So is there a sense of grief with this cover? Absolutely. Although our response, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community's response, is precisely that which was the practice of Prophet Muhammad himself when he was ridiculed or mocked, which is to turn for prayers. So today what we decided is we're holding a world peace prayer across Canada in all of our mosques from Newfoundland to Victoria, British Columbia. And as today being Friday, which is the holiest day of the week in the Muslim week, all the imams are instructing their congregation to turn to God to ask for peace, because that is exactly what Prophet Muhammad did, and that's how he reacted to ridicule.
Do you think this is ridicule of the Prophet Muhammad in this case?
Look, in Islam, it is very clearly stated that we don't draw images or do anything that is considered an insult.
And drawing an image is considered an insult. Why is that?
Well, it's particularly the message that they're sending with that. My understanding is the cartoonist said that, yes, this is me drawing Prophet Muhammad when asked. And in Islam, Prophet Muhammad is a source of guide, a source of perfection, a source of, his example is very near and dear to us. So when someone so sacred, someone who's been such a guide for peace and harmony and represents love is being ridiculed, it does hurt and it does hit home. But that said, I think our response is what's more important in how we respond to these. And I think within that same love, we have to respond like he did, which is with prayer. And that will be our response. In addition to that, we're holding some programs across Canada to educate and inform our fellow neighbors who he was, what his character was truly like, and answer their questions.
Do you think that Charlie Hebdo should have the right to do this?
You know what? I think as far as their choice to do it, absolutely. I don't. We're not looking to take away their right to do it. But the question really comes down to, as we live in a society, in a world where we're constantly, unanimously, and agree that we're striving towards peace and harmony, whether it's interfaith harmony, inter-society harmony, it is almost questioned that was the decision to print this done with that in mind? Did they actually think that this is going to lead to more peace or create more divides? And most importantly, is it going to play into the hands of those same extremists that use this type of rhetoric as their propaganda and try to portray as, see, we told you the West is printing all these millions of copies defaming the Prophet and using it as their radicalization tactic. So I think it's important that we stand united. and that we don't play into the hands of those same people that carried out those heinous attacks.
On the other hand, if they hadn't, it would send a message also. They were afraid to send a message that they were afraid. And Luz, even today, at the funeral of Sharb, the editor-in-chief who was gunned down, in the name of Islam, that's what they said when they walked in, and asked for him before they shot him. He said that essentially that you can't be afraid to take a stand in the face of that kind of violence.
You know, you brought up a great example that how should they have responded. I'll give you a small example, and I'll actually give it from the life of Prophet Muhammad. It's a really well-known incident where whenever he would walk down a certain street, which he would take regularly, a lady would throw garbage on him every day. A few days went by, and he was walking down the street, and he realized that she didn't throw the garbage. So he went in to actually check up on her to find out that she had fallen ill. And he decided to pray for her. Again, that's what he decided will be his response. And, you know, later the story goes on and it becomes more beautiful. But our point is that if the message they were trying to send was that the most appropriate message, especially when we're seeing a lot of rift and drift becoming and divides becoming in society. You know, I think almost all Muslim communities unanimously condemned the attack. We were one of the first few to do it. And to be able to publish more cartoons almost feels like it's more provoking.
Why do you think, I want to ask you this, your opinion on this. It may be a difficult question to answer, maybe no one has the answer, but why do you think so many young men in the world choose to conduct these acts of extremism in the name of Islam?
That's a very good question, and I think that's the question a lot of authorities and government officials are currently struggling with. And I think, you know, and me as a member of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jama'at, I can explain that, for example, within our own community, we have very good and highly integrated youth development programs. For instance, we have a monthly blood drive where Canadian Blood Services come in and we teach our youth from a very young age why it's important to give and where that blood's going. We'll do food drives for homeless people. Every New Year's Eve, we come to downtown Toronto to clean up the streets. Keeping them involved in those types of activities, which again, we take from the tenets of Islam to give back to community, we find that they truly understand the real message of Islam. Where we see these, you know, radicalized individuals, and when we see these actions, they're so contradictory to the teaching of Islam, which becomes so obvious that there's some political issues involved here. There's some, whether it's geopolitical or whether it's socio-political, and whether it's territory that they're trying to win, and they need more reinforcement to come and join them. So I think it's important that holistically, if us as a society, we decided that, look, we're not going to be divided because of this. I think one of the most beautiful examples of this came from Canada, which was the Cold Lake Mosque incident. You know, unfortunately, after the horrible terrorist attack in Ottawa, which again we condemned, one of the mosques in Cold Lake was vandalized, and it was Canadians who came and cleaned it up and said that you're welcome here, this is your home. I think that type of a message immediately shuts down any terror group or anybody looking to divide our society, that we're united. And whether it is Muslim or Christian or Jewish or somebody of no faith, that we're Canada as a whole, and we're a world as a whole, and we look out for each other's sentiments. For the same reason a lot of media outlets decided not to republish the cartoons, because sure, there's a social obligation, but then there's a moral obligation.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there with you. Safwan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Safwan Choudhry, spokesperson for the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jama'at Canada, joining me here in studio.